A blank page in Jakarta, August 1945, holds a nation's destiny. That page becomes the proclamation of independence, a promise of unity for a fractured land. But in this moment, no one knows how fragile that promise truly is. The Japanese surrender is fresh. The Dutch still cling to their colonies, and the Soviets watch from the shadows, calculating their next move. The room is silent except for the scratching of the quill. Outside, the city of Jakarta hums with unseen tension. The Dutch East Indies government still holds power. Their ships anchored just beyond the horizon. They won't surrender easily. And somewhere, in Moscow, a telegram is being drafted. One that could rewrite history before the ink dries. The proclamation is signed, sealed, and read aloud in the streets. Thousands cheer. But the celebration is short-lived. The Dutch counter with their own declaration, one that reasserts their control over the archipelago. The world watches, unsure of what comes next. This is not just a fight for independence. It's a fight for the soul of Asia itself. Behind the scenes, Soviet diplomats in Jakarta whisper to local leaders about a different future. One where Indonesia remains neutral, a buffer between the Western powers and the socialist bloc. Moscow sees opportunity in the chaos, a chance to carve out influence in the Pacific without firing a single shot. The game has already begun. The Dutch, meanwhile, prepare for a brutal reconquest. Their ships are loaded with troops. Their planes patrol the skies, and their newspapers scream of restoring order. But the Indonesians are not the only ones resisting. The Japanese, still scattered across the islands, refuse to leave. The archipelago is a powder keg, and someone is about to strike the match. In Washington, the CIA begins to take notes. They call it Project Penjati, a reference to the Indonesian word for balance. The project is a secret operation to monitor the chaos in the Pacific, to see if the Soviets are serious about their neutral buffer state. If they are, the entire Cold War could shift south, to the equator. The CIA files reveal something chilling. The Soviets are not just watching, they are negotiating with local leaders, with the Dutch, even with remnants of the Japanese administration. Every conversation, every handshake, could alter the course of history. The question is not if war will come, but where and when. The Dutch believe they can crush the Indonesian resistance with brute force. The Indonesians believe they can win with unity and determination. The Soviets believe they can win by playing both sides. And the Americans? They are watching, waiting, calculating how much they are willing to lose to keep the Soviets at bay. The paradox is this. No war is fought, yet the world changes forever. The borders shift, the alliances realign, and the very fabric of global politics begins to unravel. The question is not what would have happened if Indonesia had not declared independence, but what could have been, and how close we came to a different destiny. The declassified files of Project Penjati are the only evidence left of this silent war. They tell a story of whispers, not gunfire, of diplomats, not soldiers. The real battle for Indonesia was fought not on the battlefield, but in the boardrooms of power, where the fate of nations was decided by ink and parchment, not bullets. The proclamation of independence was more than a declaration. It was a defiance of fate itself. In that moment, the Indonesians chose unity over fragmentation, freedom over colonial rule. But what if they had not? What if the world had taken a different path? One where the Cold War's front lines ran through the heart of Asia. The question lingers. What if the world had never seen the face of an independent Indonesia? What if the Cold War had burned hotter, closer to home? The answer lies in the shadows of history, waiting to be uncovered, and it begins with a single document, a single choice, and the courage to stand alone. The world we know was built on that single act of defiance. But what if it had not happened? What if the dominoes had fallen differently? The answer is not just in the history books. It's in the choices we make today. The question is, are we ready to see what could have been? The year is 1945, and the world is on the brink of chaos. As colonial administrations scramble to maintain control over the Indonesian archipelago, a region of 17,000 islands, each with its own unique culture and history. The British, Dutch, Australian, American, and Soviet interests converge on the strategic straits, as local movements fragment into dozens of competing regional currents, with no unifying republic to speak of, leaving the region in a state of turmoil and uncertainty. Teachers, traders, and young officers navigate daily life inside an identity without a nation, as the colonial powers impose their own rules and regulations, suppressing local autonomy and self-governance, and leaving the people to fend for themselves in a sea of uncertainty. As the superpowers realize that whoever anchors the equator anchors all of Asia, and neither side intends to blink first, the stage is set for a confrontation that will change the course of history, and leave the people of the archipelago to wonder what could have been. Had independence been declared in 1945, we upload videos like this every day. Subscribe so you don't miss out. Television. The people of the archipelago, without a unifying republic, are left to fend for themselves, as the superpowers engage in a proxy war, with the equator as the front line, and the fate of the region hanging in the balance, as the world watches in suspense, wondering what will happen next. As the world teeters on the brink of chaos, the people of the archipelago are left to wonder what could have been. Had independence been declared in 1945, and the region's fate was sealed, as the superpowers' interests converged, and the stage was set for a confrontation that would change the course of history. A single streetlight flickers over an empty Tokyo bridge. The neon glow casts long shadows. Across the Pacific, a colossal Soviet-style monument rises over Jakarta's skyline. Tokyo's streets hum with energy. A young woman pushes a bicycle through crowds. In Jakarta, the same woman walks past a blank wall where a national flag should be. Tokyo's skyline glows with American corporate logos. A billboard reads, "Made in USA." Jakarta's streets are lined with Soviet propaganda posters. A child stares at a mural of Lenin. Tokyo's bullet trains cut through the countryside. A farmer watches in awe. In Jakarta, a Soviet cargo ship docks. Workers unload crates marked USSR. Tokyo's streets are filled with American soldiers. A barber cuts hair in a military base. Jakarta's streets are patrolled by Soviet soldiers. A child holds a toy soldier. Tokyo's economy thrives on American investment. Factories hum with activity. Jakarta's economy collapses under Soviet planning. Factories stand idle. Tokyo's students exchange ideas with American scholars. A lecture hall buzzes with debate. In Jakarta, students are indoctrinated in Soviet ideology. A classroom echoes with propaganda. Tokyo's trade routes connect Asia to the world. Ships sail with American flags flying. Jakarta's ports are controlled by Soviet naval fleets. No ships sail freely. The camera glides over a sprawling, unfamiliar world map, one where the archipelago of Indonesia remains a fractured mosaic of colonial claims. Soviet banners flutter over Sumatra's ports, while American flags wave over Java's coffee plantations. The equator, once a neutral line, now divides two superpowers' ambitions. This is the world that never was. In this timeline, the Dutch East Indies never dissolved into a unified republic. Instead, it splintered into regional fiefdoms, each vying for control under foreign tutelage. The British hold the northern straits, the Soviets anchor in the east, while the Americans carve out enclaves in the west. No single voice unites them. The 1967 founding of ASEAN never happens. Without Indonesia's leadership, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations remains a distant dream. The region's nations drift apart, unable to form a collective front against global powers. Trade routes fracture, and alliances shift like sand in a storm. The Cold War's front lines stretch across the Pacific, not just in Berlin or Korea, but here, along the equator. Soviet submarines patrol the Java Sea, while American carriers loom off the Malacca Strait. Neither side dares blink first, fearing the other will seize control of the world's most critical shipping lanes. In this world, the 1960s Tokyo doesn't rise as an economic powerhouse. Without Indonesia's raw materials, its rubber, tin, and oil, Japan's miracle remains stunted. The country's factories hum at half capacity. Its streets less crowded. Its dreams deferred by the absence of a vital partner. The student exchanges that would shape generations never take place. Indonesian scholars never study in Europe or America, and their knowledge remains confined to regional silos. The world loses the cross-pollination of ideas that defines modern academia. Innovation stagnates in isolated pockets. The 1980s world map shows a Europe without the energy that Indonesian oil would have provided. Factories in Germany and Italy run on coal, their smokestacks belching black plumes into the sky. The environmental cost of this alternate path is devastating. Pollution chokes cities, and the climate suffers in silence. The choice made in August of 1945 wasn't just about Indonesia. It was about the entire world. A single document, signed in haste, anchored a region that would become the backbone of global stability. Without it, the Cold War's flames could have engulfed Asia entirely. In this alternate timeline, decolonization movements across Africa and the Caribbean falter. Without Indonesia's bold example, the tide of independence recedes. The world remains trapped in a cycle of colonial rule. Its people divided and exploited. The cost of hesitation is written in the blood of generations. The quiet revolution of August 1945 wasn't just about freedom. It was about unity. Ordinary people, farmers, teachers, merchants, chose to stand together against fragmentation. Their courage reshaped not just their nation, but the entire course of human history. This is the story no one remembers until now. Today's interconnected Southeast Asia isn't an accident. It's the result of a bold choice. One that defied the odds and anchored a region against the storms of history. This is proof that sometimes the most consequential acts in history are the ones we declare ourselves whole. But what if the choice had gone the other way? What if the world had remained divided, and the Cold War's flames had consumed Asia entirely? The question lingers, how much of our modern world would have been lost if Indonesia had never declared independence? The world we live in today is of the quiet miracles of history. Every choice, no matter how small, ripples outward and reshapes the future. Indonesia's declaration of independence was one such choice, and its impact is still unfolding. History isn't just about the battles won and lost. It's about the moments of unity, the quiet revolutions, and the choices that bind people together. Indonesia's declaration of independence was one such moment, and its legacy continues to shape our world today. We stand at the precipice of understanding history's quiet miracles. The choice made in August 1945 wasn't just about freedom. It was about the power of unity to change the world. What other quiet revolutions have shaped our history? And how do we honor them today? What is the dark truth behind this event? Share your theory below and watch our next investigation. Welcome! Before we begin, hit subscribe so you don't miss our daily updates. Bell subscribe now before the next video. We have a special upload tomorrow. High voltage.